Birthdays used to mean something to me. When I was younger, I'd count down the days with childish glee, even as an adult clinging to whatever scraps of joy tradition allowed. But this one arrived like a slow, dull ache. 35 today. The office was gray. The emails were hollow. No messages from Kara. No calls. Not even a happy birthday text. I sat through meaningless Zoom meetings, watching my face in the corner of the screen, like a ghost haunting its own life. At lunch, I bought a cupcake from the vending machine downstairs. Chocolate with too much frosting, the kind I hated but always pretended to like, because Kara once said it was the only kind worth celebrating with. I stuck a coffee stirrer in it like a makeshift candle and stared at it in the break room. My phone buzzed. I snatched it, heart spiking stupidly. Maybe she finally remembered. Kara, don't wait up. Going out with Marcy and the girls. You understand. I stared at that message for a long time. Not the words, but what they didn't say. No mention of my birthday, no apology, not even a lie to soften the edge. She understood. That was the power dynamic, always had been. She made the rules. I enforced them against myself. The ride home was a blur, traffic lights bleeding together, my thoughts louder than the radio. I unlocked the apartment door just as a laugh echoed from inside. Not hers. Male. She didn't even flinch when I walked in. She was in the living room, draped in something silk and soft, legs crossed, a wine glass dangling from her fingers like she was posing for a lifestyle shoot. And across from her, some guy, chiseled jaw, laughing too loud, shirt too tight, sat on the couch like he owned the place. Hey, babe, she said casually, like I was interrupting something mundane. Not an affair, not my birthday. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My eyes caught the second wine glass, then the half-finished chocolate cake on the table. His birthday, apparently. The man stood and extended a hand. Eli, right? I've heard a lot about you. I'm Devin. I didn't shake it. I didn't need to. I already knew what was happening. Kara didn't even look embarrassed, just mildly inconvenienced. Like I was the one who'd forgotten something. Maybe I had. Maybe I'd forgotten who I was. That night, I stood on the balcony after they went to the bedroom. Yes, my bedroom. And stared out over the city. It was a warm night. The kind that smelled like change. Below me, life moved on without pause. And as I watched the horizon swallow the last light of my birthday, I made a wish. Not for her to come back, not for revenge. Just this, to live for myself from now on, and God help whoever tried to stop me. I didn't sleep that night, not even a second. I lay on the couch, no pillow, no blanket, listening to muffled laughter behind the bedroom door. Our door. My fists clenched every time the mattress creaked. I thought about punching a hole through the wall. I thought about screaming, but I did nothing. That's who I had become. Silent, passive, hollowed out by years of subtle submission. Kara hadn't taken everything from me overnight. She eroded me bit by bit, like ocean waves on stone. I used to think love was about sacrifice. Turns out, sacrifice without reciprocity is just self-destruction in slow motion. By morning, they were gone. She left a note, if you can even call it that. Scrawled on the back of a receipt, sorry about last night. Didn't think you'd be home. We should talk. No name, no heart, no remorse. I sat there reading it over and over. Something in me cracked. Not loudly, not like glass. More like a rope snapping under too much weight. Silent but permanent. I opened her laptop. The password was still my birthday. I don't know why that made me want to laugh and scream all at once. Emails, messages, hotel bookings. The betrayal wasn't fresh. It was historic. This wasn't some one-off mistake. This was an affair measured in anniversaries. Dinner reservations from 2 years ago. Pictures from a trip to Palm Springs, she said were just with the girls. A beach photo, her in a red bikini I'd never seen before, her hand in Devin's lap. Their smiles are too familiar. And she'd been careful too. All messages were buried in a separate Gmail folder labeled receipts. Password-protected photo albums on her iCloud. She used her friend Marcy as a proxy. Texts like, staying at Marcy's, suddenly decoded into lies I never even questioned. Multi-layered, deliberate. I started screenshotting everything. Not out of vengeance. Not yet. I just wanted to see it all. To stop lying to myself. To understand how deep the betrayal went. By noon, I was back at the office pretending to work. My manager, Rita, asked if I was okay. I told her I had a sinus infection. She nodded, already forgetting me. I didn't matter to them. I didn't matter to anyone. Not really. I was a man who blended into the background of his own life. That night, Kara came home like nothing had happened. Shopping bags in hand. She kissed my cheek out of habit, like we were still playing house. She made dinner. She poured wine. She told me about a new spa opening uptown. And I listened, because I needed to understand her, because I finally realized I didn't know who she really was. I know I haven't been present lately, she said, cutting her steak delicately. It's just, I've been overwhelmed. And you've been so distant, Eli. So unmotivated. Unmotivated. That was how she justified it. I wasn't ambitious enough. Not loud enough. Not dominant enough. She needed passion. Excitement. Devon. You're right, I said, voice steady. I've been asleep. I'm wide awake now. She smiled like I'd finally gotten the point. Like I was on the brink of a breakthrough that would pull me back into her orbit. She still thought I was hers. Still thought I could be guilted into shape. The next day I started running again. I hadn't laced up those shoes in over a year. But I ran hard every morning before dawn. Not for fitness, for control, for clarity, for blood in my veins and breath in my lungs. I needed to remember what it felt like to take up space in my own life. I stopped shaving, not out of laziness, but to see something different in the mirror, something raw, something unfamiliar. I also stopped asking Kara where she was going. That unnerved her more than any confrontation would have. The absence of jealousy felt like distance, and distance breeds paranoia. She started probing. Is everything okay? Perfect, I said, smiling just enough to scare her. She became erratic, checked my phone, asked if I was seeing someone. She even started sending flirtatious texts during the day, things she hadn't done in years. I ignored everyone. One night I waited until she was asleep. Then I slipped her phone from under the pillow and forwarded every message and photo to myself. I opened a dummy cloud account, encrypted it, and backed it all up, just in case. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing for it, and yet there was a part of me that still wanted to understand. Why him? Why lie for so long? So I followed her. It was easier than I expected. Devon lived in a luxury condo downtown. He posted about it often enough. I watched them from across the street, sipping coffee in my car. They didn't hide. She clung to his arm like a prize. They laughed, kissed. She touched his face in ways she hadn't touched mine in years. It wasn't just lust. It was possession. She was his now, fully, happily. That clarity hurt more than the discovery itself. She didn't even miss me. She hadn't even needed to grieve the marriage she left behind. I went home and looked through our wedding photos. Her smile seemed genuine. But now I questioned everything. Every memory, every kiss. Maybe she loved me once. Or maybe I was always just the warm-up act. Something shifted inside me that night. Quietly, but permanently. I realized I didn't want her back. I didn't want to confront her. I didn't even want an apology. I wanted to become someone she'd never see coming. Someone unrecognizable. Someone unforgettable. And it started with one simple rule. No more asking for love. I would make them regret everything. Revenge wasn't rage. It was clarity. A cold, deliberate state of mind. People think it's loud, explosive. Real revenge simmers. It waits, sharpens itself in the dark. I began building my new life behind Kara's back, like she once built her second life behind mine. I started small. I transferred half our joint savings to a separate account in my name. Legally, I had the right. Emotionally, it was the first time I chose me. Then I cleaned up my digital presence. New passwords, new email, new cloud storage. I deleted shared folders, removed myself from apps she monitored, and disabled our home security alerts she secretly used to track my movements. I was invisible to her now. Then I did something even bolder. I went to therapy. I didn't tell anyone. The sessions weren't about fixing my marriage. They were about mapping the damage inside me, understanding the years I'd spent erasing myself to keep her happy. My therapist, Dr. Laramie, didn't say much. She didn't need to. She asked the right questions. Do you think you ever truly said no to her? Why do you tolerate being treated as optional? What would living for yourself actually look like? Those questions haunted me more than anything Kara or Devin had done. I started journaling, not just about the betrayal, but about who I used to be, what I'd lost, what I wanted back. Freedom, integrity, desire not for her, not anymore, but for something I could finally call mine. I got a new job behind her back too. A startup I'd been freelancing for wanted me full-time, double the pay, fully remote. I said yes, signed the contract, and set my exit plan from the corporate prison I'd been rotting in. I didn't tell Kara I was quitting until the day my resignation email went out. Wait, what? She blinked over dinner. You just left? Without talking to me? Didn't think you'd be interested, I replied, cutting into my salmon. She stammered, but her sentence dissolved. She wasn't used to me being unreachable. She couldn't track me through apathy anymore. She started spiraling. Compliments at breakfast, spontaneous sex. She bought me a watch I'd mentioned liking months ago. The panic in her eyes was delicious. That was when I made the first real move. I sent Devin an anonymous package, hard copies of every photo, every email, every message she'd ever sent him from my laptop. But I manipulated the dates, switched the timeline, made it look like Kara had been cheating on him, while still married to me, with someone else entirely. A new name, a fictional man. I used an AI app to fabricate a few texts, a photo of Kara laughing with her coworker, blurred just enough to imply something illicit. He didn't know what to believe. That was the point. Chaos isn't about fire, it's about doubt. 2 days later, Kara came home screaming. She threw the mail across the hallway and accused me of ruining everything. I just blinked at her. Everything what, Kara? She flinched. You know what? No, I don't, I said, walking away. Because you haven't been honest with me in years. She stood there shaking, unsure of how to argue with a man who no longer begged. The next week, Devin showed up at our door at 2 a.m. He was drunk, paranoid, and furious, accused Kara of playing him, said he wasn't sure if she'd ever loved him or anyone. I gave up everything for you, he roared, and you're still lying. I watched from the hallway unseen, and I smiled. Kara tried damage control, but the cracks had formed. The fun was gone. The thrill of secrecy was replaced with suspicion. I had poisoned their fantasy with truth and doubt, and it was unraveling faster than even I predicted. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I bought a new wardrobe, got a fresh haircut, started lifting weights. People at my new job actually listened when I spoke. My manager even asked me to lead a major product launch within my first month. More than anything, though, I felt alive. For the first time in years, I was living in my skin, not hers. But I wasn't done. I needed one final act, not petty, not impulsive, something that mirrored the magnitude of her betrayal, something unforgettable. So I planned a party. My 33rd birthday was coming up. Last year, she forgot it. She spent that day with Devin, celebrating his birthday instead. The memory of her laughing on that rooftop bar, wearing his jacket, haunted me. This year I took it back. I rented a penthouse event space downtown, exposed brick, skyline view, craft cocktails, curated playlist. I invited coworkers, new friends, even some of Kara's old college acquaintances who'd quietly reached out to me, admitting they always thought I deserved better. The invite list also included Devin. And yes, Kara. She couldn't resist. Not when she saw how polished the guest list was. Not when she realized she was no longer the center of my universe. I dressed sharp, midnight blue blazer, charcoal shirt, sleek watch. I looked like someone new, someone you regret losing. Kara walked in 30 minutes late, in a crimson dress that screamed desperation. She smiled like we were still married, still close. I offered her a drink. You look different, she said, eyes searching mine. I am different. People kept coming up to me, congratulating the job change, the party, the new version of me they were getting to know. Kara floated beside me, trying to insert herself into conversations. Then Devin walked in. Her entire body went rigid. He ignored her, walked straight up to me and extended a hand. Happy birthday, Eli. I shook it, cool as ice. Glad you came. You two know each other? Kara asked, eyes darting. I looked at her. Oh, I think everyone knows everyone now, don't they? Devin raised a glass. To the truth, no matter how ugly it is. Kara turned pale. I walked away before she could ask questions. I had nothing left to say. The party kept flowing. Laughing, music, new connections. For once, I was the gravitational center. I wasn't orbiting anyone else's world. I was the world. And the best part, I didn't need revenge anymore. Not really, because I'd already won. She was unraveling. Devin was done. The dream life she built on lies had collapsed. And me? I was only getting started. I stood on the balcony near midnight, drink in hand, city lights dancing in the glass. A woman I'd met that night, Lena, stood beside me. Intelligent, warm smile, eyes that had seen something real. Hell of a party, she said. I used to hate birthdays, I replied. Not anymore? I looked at Kara through the glass. She stood alone now, watching me from the edge of the room, utterly out of place in a world she used to control. No, I said. Now, I make wishes. She smiled. Did you make one tonight? I clinked my glass against hers. Yeah, I whispered. To live for myself, from now on. The night after the party, I didn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, heart strangely calm. It wasn't adrenaline. It wasn't fear. It was ready. I'd shown her a glimpse of the new me, but I hadn't truly taken back my life yet. Not until I reclaimed the one thing she'd always owned, the story of us. You see, Kara wasn't just a liar. She was an architect of perception. She built narratives where she was always misunderstood, always righteous in her decisions, even when she was gutting the people who loved her. To friends, family, colleagues. She painted herself as the devoted wife to a distant husband, the woman who finally chose happiness after years of emotional neglect. And I had let her, until now. The morning after the party, I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. Quietly, no confrontation, just strategy. Are you sure you want to do this now? He asked. She'll be blindsided. That's the point, I said steady. I filed for divorce that same day. Then I dropped the last domino. It started with a podcast, one I was invited to speak on, a career podcast, technically. They wanted to hear about my leap from corporate to startup, but I negotiated something more. I'd like to share my personal story too, I told the host. Something about identity, about walking away from a life that wasn't really yours. They loved it. I spoke calmly. No names, no bitterness, just truth, wrapped in the armor of reflection. There's something uniquely devastating about being replaced before you even realize you're gone, I said, voice steady through the mic. Imagine waking up one day to discover that your partner had not only built an entirely new relationship, but rewritten the history of your shared life to justify it. I paused. But the real betrayal? It wasn't infidelity. It was the years I spent apologizing for things I hadn't done, dimming myself to fit someone else's idea of love. The episode went viral. Comments poured in. Men and women who'd been silenced by manipulative partners, gaslit into shrinking. Kara heard it. Of course she did. 2 days later, she showed up at my door. No warning. I opened it, and for the first time saw her clearly, not as my wife, not even as my betrayer, but as a person whose power over me had expired. You really did it, she said quietly. I told the truth. Your truth? No, I corrected. The truth. The part you left out of your story. Her eyes burned. You're humiliating me in public now? No, I said. I'm setting myself free. If that humiliates you, maybe you were never the hero of this story. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. You weren't supposed to be like this, she whispered. You used to be nice. No, I said gently. I used to be silent. I handed her the manila envelope, the official divorce papers. Signed, notarized, filed. She didn't open it. She stared at it like it was a coffin. I gave you the best years of my life, she said, trembling. I nodded. And I spent those years trying to deserve you, but now I realize you never deserved me. Her face crumpled, the rage broke, and beneath it, I saw something I hadn't expected. Fear. Not fear of being alone, fear of being irrelevant. I stepped aside and closed the door without another word. That night, I posted a single photo to my socials. Me on the rooftop from the party, skyline behind me, glass raised. Caption, here's to telling your own story. It was simple, it was final. But that wasn't the pivot. Not yet. 2 weeks later, Devin texted me. You ruined her. I replied, she did that on her own. I just turned on the lights. Then, silence until a month passed, and a call came from an unknown number. Mr. Hayes, a woman's voice said, this is Caroline, Kara's mother. I paused. Hello. I just wanted to say, thank you. I blinked. For what? For finally showing the world who my daughter really is. That was when I realized the pivot wasn't about vengeance. It was about liberation. Mine and everyone else's she'd manipulated into silence. I had lived under her shadow for years, believing the sun had gone out. But it hadn't. She was just standing in front of it. And now she is gone. It's strange. The day you realize peace feels louder than pain. For so long, my emotions were a battlefield. Loud, chaotic, filled with the booms of what-ifs and the endless rattling of guilt and regret. But now every morning, I wake up to something quieter. Not absence, not numbness, just space. A month after filing the divorce papers, I officially moved out of the apartment Kara and I once shared. I didn't take much. Just the things that mattered. My journals, my guitar, a battered copy of The War of Art, and a photo of my mom from when I was a boy. The one where she's laughing into the wind, hair untamed, completely free. That's what I wanted. Not revenge, release. Kara never responded to the final petition. Her silence was its own surrender. The court granted the divorce without contest. A clean break. Uncharacteristic for her, but telling. She didn't fight because there was nothing left for her to control. The podcast appearance changed everything. People reached out, old friends, even some of Kara's former allies. Not to stir drama, but to quietly say, I see you now. For the first time in years, I felt seen not for what I provided, or tolerated, or failed to become, but for who I was under all that shame and self-doubt. I began writing again, not just in my journal, but openly. A blog turned into a Substack. I called it After Her Birthday. Fitting, since that was the day my life began again. I told stories, not about her, but about me. Stories of waking up, of crawling back into myself, about learning to breathe without someone's permission. It wasn't a call out, it was a calling back to myself. One post in particular went viral. It was a short essay titled, The Day I Realized I Was the Gift and Not the One Forgotten. The response was overwhelming. One night, a message came from a woman named June, a photographer. She'd read the essay and thanked me for saying what she'd never been able to put into words. I used to think silence meant strength, she wrote, but now I realize sometimes silence is just unacknowledged fear. Thank you for speaking. We began corresponding, slowly, carefully. No expectations, just truth. The first time we met in person, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Ease, no performance, no narrative to manage, just conversation that made time dissolve. She laughed with her whole face. She asked real questions, and she never once tried to turn my pain into a weakness. We're not rushing anything. That's the beautiful part. Healing isn't a race, it's a revelation, and I'm finally learning to let the story unfold without trying to direct every scene. Devin, for his part, is a ghost now. After his last text, he disappeared from both our social circles. Rumors say he and Kara broke up, predictably, weeks after the fallout. Apparently, she tried to control his image too, and he wasn't built for pressure, only praise. I don't celebrate his loss. I just release it. And Kara, we haven't spoken since that last visit, but I heard from a mutual acquaintance that she tried pitching a reclamation story to a podcast, one where she paints herself as the misunderstood woman who was betrayed by male fragility. They declined. People aren't buying the narrative anymore, because now there's another one out there. Mine. The power shift wasn't about punishment. It was about possession of my voice, my value, my life. And when you take back ownership of your story, you don't need to burn bridges. You simply walk away, knowing the road ahead is finally yours. Last week, I celebrated my birthday again, my real one this time. A quiet rooftop evening, no crowd, just a few people who know the truth and love me anyway. June brought a small cake, chocolate, homemade. My name spelled in whipped cream like a child's, unapologetically joyful. She asked if I wanted to make a wish. I smiled and shook my head. I don't need to, I said. I'm already living it.